I'd like to introduce some candidates and civic leaders. We also had a program that we want to get to, and I hope everyone is patient. There's a lot going on tonight, but it's a beautiful night. I'd like to introduce a candidate for Assembly District 38, Mr. Nick Comiani.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not a candidate.
You're not?
No, it turned out to be, if anyone's aware, the governor decided to call a special election.
Oh,
so,
okay. That was announced today?
No, it was announced Friday, the last day. You know the way this governor is.
Okay, sorry about that.
So actually, Mike's the candidate and Donna, okay. I'm just an innocent bystander. If I could make a comment, it's a 1-minute comment. And I just want to let everybody know that, and not blaming any of the candidates for this, because if I was going to run, I was going to run on my record, but this was a travesty what they did. What they did is 3 people decided who was going to represent us in this neighborhood versus having an entire community vote to see who they want out there. All the candidates, like myself, would say, you don't mind losing if people didn't vote for you. At least the people voted, and you're not the person they wanted. But when less than a handful of people decide who should represent us in this community, that's a travesty. It should have been a regular election. It should have been an election where us candidates would come to you and say, why should you get my vote? Because I can do this, I do this, or whatever. You might like it for one reason or her and so forth, but that's where it should have been. And that's what I want to say. Thanks.
Good. Thank you. If you can introduce yourself.
Yes, I will do that.
This is a question.
Well, I just wanted to, first of all, introduce myself. My name is Lourdes Ventura, and I, along with Nick Comiani and Mike Miller and Donna and other candidates, like you said, were aspiring to reach the Assembly. Right now, since the special election was called, I'm still considering that possibility of running myself. So I am a potential candidate still in this special election. And I'm from Richmond Hill. I'm a former prosecutor in Queens County. I also worked at the Attorney General's office in the Civil Rights Bureau for several years. And now, most recently, I am working at the New York State Senate as an attorney there. And I have been president of the Latino Bar Association in Queens County, as well as very involved in other organizations in Corona. I was born and raised in Corona, Queens, but now I have settled here in Richmond Hill. I have a 23-month-old baby, and I just want the best for him, and that's really one of the main reasons why I'm doing this, because I do get to see what Albany does. I do travel to and from Albany during the session year, and I've been doing it for the last 2.5 years. So I aspire to hopefully be a candidate as well for this special election, and if that were to happen, I would hope to count on your vote. And I will pass around some information about my candidacy, and if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to speak with you after this session. Thank you.
When there's a special election called, each political party picks their candidate, and that's where Nick is saying 3 people in the room. But then there's also this other process that isn't easy, but it's there. Any candidate who isn't picked and still wants to run, like Lourdes, can go around and get 500 signatures from anybody who's a registered voter, and start their own party. In Nick's case, maybe you want to call it the Education Party, because Nick's very involved in the Community Education Council in District 24.
And on this district, community board.
On the community board. So that's the process. They only have 12 days to do it, though. But right, yeah. But like Nick and Mike, no, we had what, 3.5 weeks? We had about 3.5 weeks to get petitions, because when the vacancy happened, it was in the middle of the petition process. And we assumed, and you know what they say about assume, that we had to get petitions, and we ran around getting petitions. So yeah, Lourdes and Nick and anybody else who's out there has the possibility to be on the ballot, but they have to go around and get 500 signatures. So maybe you get some volunteers in the room.
I thought it was 1,500 though, not 500.
I think it's
1,500.
It's 1,500, it's not 500?
Yeah.
And you better triple it, because
yeah, that's right.
Well, we know that. The district is known for that. There was was a bill up in Albany, and I found it that, in January. And that bill called for how this should happen and how there shouldn't be a chance for the governor to decide. It should be by law. Eric Ulrich, when that vacancy was there in our city law, within so many days, the mayor had to call a special election, and within so many days after that, the special election had to happen. But up in Albany, there isn't any such law. In Albany, it could be, whenever the governor decides to do this. And if he decides that he needs a special election, then he calls it, and once he calls it, we have 30 days. And there was a law up in Albany, and I have the bill. I don't think it would pass because it didn't have a date on it when it was passed, but it was in January, which was just this year, and it passed it was in the assembly where the bill came, where it wouldn't be arbitrary. It would be a fair thing that there's a set amount of rules. We all want to see rules and regulations, and they should be followed. It shouldn't be arbitrary, because then it seems like, well, maybe it's convenient to do it this time, and maybe it's convenient to do it that time. It shouldn't be what's convenient for anybody. It should be what the law states. And that, that's what we all should be fighting for.
Thank you, I just want to add something. The state and the city have different rules. The city special election, you run as an independent. You make your own party up. With the state, they choose the main parties, and then anybody can run independent. And what needs to be done with what you're saying is, needs to be a change in rules that anybody can run under a given name, not under a party name. And that's the difference when you link to it. What usually happens when you run under a party name, usually that party person winds up winning in a special. And I can give you a standard example. I was working for Al Walden at the time. Al Walden was a state senator running against Greg Meeks, who was an assemblyman looking to see who was going to Congress. And Greg Meeks got the party endorsement of the Democrats, and Al got the endorsement of the Conservatives. Need I say any more? The Democrats won. And that's what happens, and maybe they need to change that to allow people to run independently.